Hey there, and welcome back to the Designated Pundits. Today, we're previewing the 2024 season for Minnesota United. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Today is the last day. We've done 25 team previews. Today, 27, 28, 29. We've done 26. We do 27, 28, 29 today. That's how you count inclusively. So today, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock, if you want to join us, we'll be finishing up the last 3 team previews. We've been all around the league. It ends tonight in time for Media Day on Tuesday and MLS kickoff on Wednesday. So we're very happy here. And we had to save this team for the last, Minnesota United. Didn't make a lot of moves. They didn't even have a coach until a little earlier today. So we brought in Alex McCracken from Dummy Run Pod. How you doing, buddy?
Doing fantastic. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thank you for joining us here on your, I-80 Sports debut here on the Designated Pundits. So, we thank you so much for being here to talk Minnesota United. We need to get right into it.
Let's dive in.
We're going to take a look at the 2023 season first. Minnesota United was 10, 11, and 13, finishing 11th in the West. They scored 46 goals, and that's not a lot. It's tied for 5th worst. They allowed 51 goals, which gave them a -5 differential on the season. They also had a 4-9-4 home record, which I feel is notable because it is so bad, not what we expect at all from Minnesota. It's quite the opposite of what we expect from Minnesota. Alex, break down 2023. Tell us what you think.
Oh, man. Happy it's in the rearview mirror. It was one thing after another. I think we had a few issues with some injuries, some key injuries that really hurt us. Robin Lod went out early. We had a few other players come and go. Kervin Arriaga missed a big chunk of the season. Bongi was out for a while. Things stacked on top of each other. You can look at a lot of different things. Obviously the big storyline of the season was Adrian Heath's departure. Great guy. I loved him, met him a few times. Super nice guy. I think he was what we needed when the moment, came. We brought him in originally. But he just kind of always had this feeling of he was never really going to make us better than the sum of our parts. I grew up in Wisconsin and me and my co-host Grant, he's from Wisconsin as well. And we grew up our formative years of watching the Packers, and the Packers had Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy is now in Dallas. And I think Dallas is realizing the same thing that we realized when we were Green Bay Packers fans. Mike McCarthy never really made the team better than the sum of its parts. We were always pretty good, get to the end of the playoffs, you'd fizzle out one way or another. We're seeing the same thing in Dallas. And Grant and I had been saying that about Keith for a few years, where when everything clicked, the 2020 season, Reynoso was on fire. We had, Kevin Molino, who was, making the assists. And, we had enough striker presence that we were scoring goals here and there. We made a run, but it just, Seattle tore us apart because it just never really was a team. And I think that's kind of what this last year showed us again. I was happy to see him go a little later than I think it probably should have been. But throughout the year, it was just kind of that. With one piece missing, which I think people underestimate from the outside at least, how important Robin Lod is. When she went out, and obviously Reynoso wasn't here for the first half of the year, there just wasn't enough firepower to keep us going.
Yeah, I love it. I think Adrian Heath is kind of an enigma as a coach, where it's like, he does just enough to keep his job from year to year, and when he does pull something great off, you're like, of course it's Adrian Heath, of course he did something great. But then nothing, stretches of nothing. You had, the Emmanuel Reynoso thing, that's got to be a little bit on the front office, a little bit on the coach. Who knows when he's going to show up? And that happened again this preseason. He just doesn't like the cold. He's never going to be in Minnesota in February. That's just the case. I don't know that to be true, but I know it's a fact.
I think there's a few other things going on, but sure, let's go with that.
All right. So let's take a look at who the contributors were last year. You had Pukki with 10 goals and 1 assist, Longwane with 3 goals, 1 assist, Emmanuel Reynoso, 6 goals, 4 assists, Asani Dotson, 3 goals, 3 assists, and Kevin Arriaga, 2 goals, 2 assists. As you said, the obvious man out, Robin Lod, could not make it to this graphic for this year. But you did have some contributors all a little bit underwhelming, right?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, Timo Pukki came in the summer, so his 10 goals, I think, definitely need an asterisk next to it. Obviously not, but also at the same time, 4 of those came in one game, so there's a little bit of both sides there. He's exciting. I think that he's someone who we were definitely he actually fits well into this team. Historically, we've had some really head-scratching signings at the number 9. The top of which was Adrien Unu, who was our DP striker 2 years ago. He came in and he had played in a 2-striker system pretty much his whole career. That was his thing. He was a 2-striker guy, and we signed him when we'd only ever played the 4-2-3-1. So that from the get-go, it never made sense. And then we put him in here, and he never had someone to work off of, and it just fizzled out. So Timo Pukki is actually a guy that it made a lot of sense up to this point. We'll see what happens with the coaching change, but he's someone who I think that I'm expecting a lot from him this year as well. And then Bong is kind of, still the great unknown. He had a bit of a breakout year last year, and I expect more from him. Beyond that, yeah, it's kind of a smattering. For all the things that Manu Reynoso does, he's never really shown to be a goal scorer. And then, Dotson is spent most of the year in the 8. So we need someone else to step up. Franco Fragapane, it would be great if he could do a little bit more. He's our left winger. But so far, he's kind of proven that he's probably not going to be the guy either.
Yeah, and I like, Pukki, 10 goals, 1 assist. That's during 1,031 minutes, which is just over 11 games. That's exactly what you want from a DP. That would be the equivalent of like 28 goals over the course of the season. And he definitely fits the one-man striker system very well. He's not huge. He's like 5'11", 175, but he plays large. I like to see that. And one of my favorite things is like going to research him because he had like this like flowing mane of long hair, moves to Minnesota. He pulls a bob. Like, it's just gone. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, well, it's the cold probably,
Probably. I thought the really interesting thing about Minnesota is that Minnesota's expected goals on the year was actually quite high.
Yeah.
7th in the league at like 54.1 or something like that. So it's not that this team never created opportunities either.
Nope. And that's another great thing that Pukki really fit the system is we just needed someone. Just finish the ones that would give to you. Don't even worry about making your own chances or pulling something crazy off. Like they say with goalies, block the ones that you're supposed to. If you get one extra one here and there, you're doing a great job. That's kind of what we needed in 9, honestly, because like you said, the expected goals were always there, but we just had this run of Adrien Unu, and then we had 2 stints with Luis Amarilla, and then Mender Garcia was a total bust, and before that we had, the number 9 is a well-documented disaster, really, since we got rid of Christian Ramirez, which is a whole other thing that you don't want to unpack if you're not familiar with. So really, we just needed someone to put away, and that's really what Pukki did a lot of, was just kind of scored the goals that he was supposed to, and there you go. That got him basically a goal a game.
Now, you guys actually had a really good playoff chance because there was this time in April where you lost, drew 1 and lost 5 in a 6-game stretch.
Yep.
But then heading into the final stretch, you guys had a chance to make the playoffs. Heading into September, it was looking good. Then draw, loss, draw, loss, win, loss on decision day. And a win on decision day with some help could have put you in a playoff spot. So all things considered, this is a borderline playoff team in 2023.
Oh yeah, and even the other things on decision day went our day. We just didn't pull off our part of it. And I think this. You put the starters that we have back healthy again out there, and I think we're over 500. I think we're getting into that last playoff spot. Nothing else considered, just because that much talent was missing, and if it's all run out there again and done better, healthier than it was last year, this roster's fine.
I like that. I think that's true. If you guys get a reroll,
yeah.
If you had 100 rerolls on 2023, you make the playoffs 60 times. Maybe 55.
Not so sure.
I think I mostly agree. The roster's mostly fine, but there's a couple of things I sort of disagree about. Age is starting to become a little bit of an issue for this roster, and it's not top to bottom in an old roster. We were looking at somebody else whose average age was like 27 or something like that. Whole starting lineup over 30. It's not like that. But like Timo Pukki, 33. Robin Law, 30. Let's see now. Who else did we talk about? Fragapane, 31. Will Trapp, 31.
Boxall will be up there.
Boxall is 35. He'll be 36 in August. Zarek Valentin, 32. I don't know that he's a huge contributor, but just that. It's kind of like there are older players on this team, and it's not just that those are depth players in this team. A lot of those guys are kind of contributors. So this team does feel like it's got an expiration date in it.
Yep. Well, and I think more than the expiration date, what we're really running into is that we're somewhere caught between a win now mentality and a win the future mentality, because we've got some good pieces that are young. Kervin Arriaga is still pretty young. Reynoso is not, he's not a young kid anymore, but he's got a good few good years on him. We got some other kids who are coming up, Tani Onolasheyi. He was the one we loaned out to San Antonio last year. We got, Bongi on the wing. Our defense needs work, but this year we signed a couple of young kids who should be good for a while. And then, we got the top end people of Pookie and, the wingers and Lud that we kind of got to decide about. Of all the things that concern me, age doesn't concern me as much. I think we more so we have a few missing, like I said, Franco Fragapane, I think, has proved that he's not the Kevin Molina replacement, which is what we needed. He's a good enough player. I think he'd be great off the bench or as your second there. But he's not a top end talent. I think we need to replace that. But yeah, age is an issue. And I think that we're going to see a lot of change. Everything that we've heard about the new chief soccer officer, or whatever you want to call him, is that he wants to get younger. You talked a little bit about the coach that it sounds like we're signing over from Manchester United. He thinks, he has a big resume of working with youth. So I think that we're going to get younger aggressively. But right now we are in kind of a weird spot where there's a couple key pieces that are getting up there.
So let's talk about some key pieces that left during last year. You have Mender Garcia, John Gregush, Ismael Tehori-Shradi, and Kamar Lawrence. I think he was actually out halfway through the season.
Yeah, that was weird. He went to Jamaica and just never came back.
Kamar does that. Kamar does that. From his time as a Red Bull, that's what Kamar Lawrence is kind of known for. Any other moves that actually hurt your team here?
No, I think honestly, Ismail, he came in late, and he was a great piece for us. The thing I liked about him is he was one that would just shoot. Sometimes we get a low around the box and we would be hesitant to shoot. He was one I'd hope we'd work something out, and it sounded like we did try and do some contract renegotiations. We didn't pick up his option, but then we were still talking to him. Everyone else, it's fine. Mender has been a total bust for years. He was a DP. Who wasn't even starting or even contributing in any real way towards the end. And then Jan Gregus we only brought back in because we had a couple injuries at our holding midfielders positions. So we brought him back in. He had done a stint with us. We brought him actually over from I forget where now. So he did a short stint with us at the end there, and was a good piece for us to have, but he never really had a big future.
So you do have some incoming players and an incoming head coach. Which would you like to talk about first?
They got the players up, so let's start there.
Victor Eriksson and Caden Clark. It seems like that's about all you got going on. Now, there was some front office issues. You guys didn't have people in the right places. I think one of the chief people in charge of signing players was not even in the country. Is there some truth to that?
Yep. So our chief soccer officer, whatever you want to call him, we obviously brought him over from Barnsley, or not. One of the B teams that's in the championship. I always get them all confused. He was their CEO there. Originally, they were going to keep him to the summer, but we were able to work through that. So he came over, I think, just after New Year's. So nothing really happened until then. So he came in, and then up until that, we did the super draft, which I think I've heard we picked up some good guys there. We picked up a piece from the USL who was good. I'm blanking his name now. It's going to bother me. Picked up a piece from the USL who had come up through the Galaxy Academy, and he's looking like he could play some Premier minutes. And I feel like smaller pieces, but nothing big. The ones you got up here are the big ones. And then obviously, the coaching search started, which is why just as of today is when we're first hearing our rumors.
Because that's a logical order to do things. You get the players in place first, and then you get
figure out what you got. Yep. With that said, though, I think it was a good move. Especially after seeing today who it sounds like we're linking to. It would have been nice if it had happened differently, but we spent that first 5 years kind of on our back foot. I don't know if you remember this, but when we got announced as the expansion team, we only had a few months to plan our whole team. That's part of the reason it was such a disaster. You think of like a St. Louis, they had their MLS2 team playing for a full year, and then they moved that up to the MLS. We only had less than a year from the moment it was announced, the moment we stepped on the field for the first time. And since then, I think we've just kind of been on the back foot. And like I said, Heath was able to kind of keep the wheels on and give us a few good years. But even if you told me this year we were going to miss the playoffs, but we were setting ourselves up for a better future, I would take it in a second, because I think we kind of needed to just hit pause and be like, all right, let's get the right people in the right position, because we just keep kind of trying to patch this stuff with duct tape and it's not really working. We don't have a cohesive plan. We keep missing on our signings, and we just got to take a minute and take a breath and get the right people in the right positions.
So let's then take a look forward a little bit to this team. Sort of mid-season, we turn on the TV. I know that a lot of things are up in play, but what do you think we're seeing? Is this going to be a new look team? Is it going to be kind of an old look team for a while? What do you think?
If you'd asked me this yesterday, I would have had a different answer for you, obviously. With the new coach, I think some things are going to be changing. I think we're going to start out the year the way we ended last year. I think we'll be in our 4-2-3-1. Reynoso is a 10. He's a great 10. We're not going to go away from that. Bongi made himself enough of a mainstay last year that I don't think we're going to be able to move him off the right wing. And unfortunately, I think that puts Robin Lod out left, which we tried a couple years ago, and I think it's a waste of his talents. I would rather see him in either the false 9 or, honestly, he played as an 8 for a while, and I thought it was great there. But I think for the most of the year, we're going to be in our 4-2-3-1. If everyone's healthy, which Ray picked up a knock in training, so I don't think he'll play on Saturday. I think we're going to be in our 4-2-3-1. I think it'll work fine. It'll be better with Pookie in place, with Robin Lod healthy, all those things. I think we'll be somewhere in the middle of the table. And then I think we're going to start working towards being a more high pressing, more intense team. And I think that'll mean we'll have to get younger. And honestly, if you told me that in the summer transfer window, or that currently we were shopping Reynoso around, I would not think that you were crazy, because as good as a player as he is, it's just always been something with him. If you ever notice any of the marketing stuff, he's never really been the face of the club for one reason or another. It's always like Boxall or, Real Trap. And if we're going to do this high pressing system, I just don't know how well he fits into it. So he will
not track back. Just like he will not show up to Minnesota in January. Yep. He will not track back.
So I could see us doing kind of like a Zelarayan Columbus thing, where when they traded Zelarayan, people thought they were crazy, but they went out and got pieces that fit better, and we all saw how that ended. So, I wouldn't be shocked to hear that we were shopping him around, or if he happened to move on and we found a better piece again. It wouldn't shock me.
Let's take a look at what we have on the field as the season starts in 3 days. Starting up top, you got Teemu Pukki. Behind him, Sangbin Jeong. Can you talk about him a little bit?
I wish I could talk more about him. Yeah, he's we got him last year or 2 years ago now. He's young, he's raw, he's got a lot of really great things. He's good speed, pretty good on the ball. He'll once or twice a game he'll do something and be like, oh yeah, okay, that's right, that's why he doesn't play more. Still just got to do some growing up, some maturing, a little bit better decision making, and he'll be in a really good spot.
Love it. And you still have Patrick Weah somewhere in the system, right? Is he still kicking around somewhere in the minor leagues?
Yeah, we do. It's getting to the point where it's kind of feeling like that'll probably never become anything. He played a few minutes with us very early on, and it looked promising. And then he was loaned out to a USL team the same way that Tani Oluwaseyi was. But he very quickly became one of the top goal scorers in USL. Patrick Weah wasn't really even getting minutes. So he's still around. Adrian Heath did not really like playing youth, so we never really saw a lot of our young guys get a chance. And so with this new system, this new management from top to bottom, maybe that'll change, but I would not buy any stock in him these days now.
Out on the wings, Robin Lod out left, Longwane out right, and Franco Fragapane on the bench looking to come in a little bit later. Is that how you see things?
I think so. Yep. Again, I think it's unfortunate because I don't think Robin Lod's talents are best to use out on the left, but I think it's more likely we'll put him out there than we'll switch Bongi out there. So I think he'll be out there. If Reynoso's hurt, I think he'll play as the 10. And then you could honestly, the third, under Franco, Caden Clark, who was kind of the great unknown. He was obviously.
I know him very well. I can talk about Caden Clark all day.
So yeah, you probably know more than we do. So who knows where that'll end up fitting in, both positionally and on the depth chart.
Caden Clark was good enough to have it written into his contract when he was 17 years old that he would play in Red Bull and then move up to Leipzig for a year. He just kept getting loaned out everywhere and never really made it stick. But a lot of energy. He can press. He can play up. I wouldn't necessarily call him a winger, but he can do everything in the system, and that's the whole thing about Red Bull. Our midfielders need to kind of all be box to box. And I think that he provides a lot of talent. He provides a lot of youth. He provides a little bit of speed on him. And I think he could help this team out if you guys want to shift to like a 4-2-2-2. Maybe keep him or Laud next to Reynoso as like two attacking midfielders. Could be, a really good system for you guys. Let's talk about what happens behind the attacking the front four here. You have a number 8 and a number 6, Hassani Dotson and Alejandro Brand behind them in the depth chart. You got Arriaga, Will Trapp.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that the one player that we have missing here is Kervin Arriaga. I think he'll be actually probably where you have Brand now. I think based on what I'm seeing on preseason, it looks like they're starting as that duo. Brand. He's another kind of unknown. He came from Costa Rica, which Minnesota United fans, we had Francisco Calvo for years, and he was a love-hate relationship. So seeing another Costa Rican on the field is giving us all a bit of heartburn. But we'll see how he pans out. But to start, I think we can expect to see Dotson and Arriaga there as that 8-6 combo.
I have a quick question, little tangent, but Transfer Market has Will Trapp listed as the captain of this team.
Yeah.
A little unusual for your captain to not be a starter. Is that something you see changing?
It's another one of those weird spots that kind of leads me to believe up until this point, a lot of us maybe underestimated how poor some of the decisions have been or how poorly things have been run. Will Trapp's great. He's a great locker room guy. Same thing with like Zarek Valentin. I think we have to have those guys around to kind of balance things out. They've been around the league. They know how it works. They help some of the young kids. But Will Trapp, he's definitely a player where there's a saying like if you watch the game, you don't see him, but if you see him or if you watch him, you see the game, whatever. Like he's always kind of in the right spot. He's making the plays that aren't necessarily flashy, but they're really important. But it's just kind of gotten less and less, or more and more underwhelming as the years go on. I wouldn't be super shocked if he obviously he won't be starting, so he can't be the captain. So that probably shifts to Robin Lod or if Michael Boxall obviously is a big one that I would expect it to go to. It'll really be interesting to see if he continues to take a step back as people like Kervin Arriaga kind of come into their form a bit better.
All right, you got 3 center backs here. You got Victor Eriksson, who you guys just signed. They got Michael Boxall and Miguel Tapias. I believe those 3 are going to be the two, the primary pick any 2. Do you have any preference on where they would line up?
Yeah, I still, in the back of my head, I would still like to see us go to some type of 3-striker system where they're all 3 are playing. Mostly just because I have this vision of Bongi turning into a left or a right wing back that a la Alphonso Davies that most people think is just a pipe dream and probably is, but I'm going to hold on to it. Great. Michael Boxall has been a mainstay for us. He's been the only kind of consistent piece for us over the years. He's definitely getting up there. Yeah. What did you say? 35. I think that the mistakes are starting to show a bit more. If Victor Eriksson takes his spot this year, I wouldn't be shocked because I think if you're going to take Boxall or Tapias, you would probably take Tapias. Still makes some bad decisions. He's has a tendency to step when he shouldn't, and that leads to him getting burned once or twice a game. But over the year, this last year, I think Boxall had a bit of a rough year. And again, getting to 35, there's only so much more you can do.
And let's go back to the fullbacks now. What are their duties? Do they have any offensive responsibilities? And we have Paddleford, DJ Taylor. Is that how you see things lining up?
Yep, that should be about that. And historically, it's been kind of the DJ Taylor would be the one doing a lot more kind of running up the wing and overlapping with Bongi, putting in crosses. And that left back has been just a rotating for quite some time now. We had Kamar Lawrence in there for a bit while he still wanted to be here. So that's a position of need, beyond just like, oh, that would be a nice upgrade. Like, no, it's DJ Taylor's great. He's a great number 2 guy. I think he just doesn't have the tools to be, if we're going to be a serious team, we should have someone better than him there. And Padelford's great. He's just still young. He was UFC 2 guy, and just started getting first team minutes when Kamara Lawrence didn't come back. So those are 2 positions of need. Again, I wonder if part of the reason we didn't address that is just because we didn't know what formation we were going to play. And if we're playing this new high pressing system and all those pieces did fall into place, do we go a little bit different direction with those pieces?
I don't see another left back on this roster.
Yep. Yeah, Valentin will play over there from time to time. And actually, you know what? The word on the street is that we've been putting Jonathan Rosales out there, who's the other Honduran that we have along with Kervin Arriaga. He did that a few times last year. I think he's better as like a 8 or like a 6. But from what I'm hearing in preseason is that it sounds like we're actually going to start Rosales out there, which if he can grow into that position, it's a great spot for him. He's got a lot of talent. We've kind of struggled to find a place for him these last few years. So if he can put those tools together, he can have that spot with little to no competition. Again, last year it was kind of a mixture of results from that, though.
Yeah. What are going to be the strengths of this team this year?
Well, I mean, the strengths of the team are always going to start and end with Reynoso. You know, his movement in the middle of the field and his ability to, you know, create space and find passes is, you know, why people talk about Minnesota. And if he can do that, and you know, Robin Lod, Timo Pukki, and Bongi can pair up to score goals, which all three of them have proven they absolutely can. There's no reason to think this team can't be very, very good. Our defense is going to be weak, but not. I think I can think of worse defenses around the league. Dane St. Clair is a very solid goalkeeper, and we have a nice mixture of defensive midfielders as well to go along with it. So if all the pieces work the way that, you know, they theoretically could, this team could be very, very good. The only problem is, you know, it feels like kind of a delicate machine where if one gear isn't quite spinning correctly with all the other ones, things just kind of start crumbling.
I think I picked a couple of talking points for us at the end of the episode, and I think we've answered most of them already. Yeah. Can the defense make the leap forward that they need to? Probably not. I think that they're going to be holding the floodgates, you know, paddling the water, paddling the boat, and just trying to be league average and hope the offense can overpower. What do they need to address in the summer window? And I think we talked about that too, which is fullbacks.
Yep, fullbacks, absolutely. And again, I would like to, unless Robin Lod is going to, you know, take that left wing spot. I was hoping we'd pick up a better winger this summer, but here we are.
It seems like you could invest in depth in quite a few positions.
Yeah. Yep. I think so. You know, we picked up a few pieces this summer who maybe can bring something that I'm not expecting. But again, it does feel like our depth is a little bit light right now.
My last one was, can Pukki put up DP number goals? And I think we answered that. Yes, he can. He did 10 goals and 1 assist in 11 games last year. Look into your crystal ball, pull a number. How many goals and assists does he have this year?
I think goals and assists. I think he's good for 14, 15 goals. And I think he'll get another assist, probably more like 4. So I have him, you know, we did a golden boot draft, me and my friends, and he's someone who I had on my kind of first tier players, just because I think that those 3 behind him will give him enough chances. And again, you know, he spent that summer and he was scoring that 1 goal a game. He was living in Robin Lod's house with their 3 kids, and he's 2 kids. So he finally went home. His wife was pregnant. They had their kid. They got their own space now. And I think, you know, as fans, we watch all these things and look at all the metrics, and you forget, like, at night he's going home and like sleeping in his friend's basement, basically. I'm sure it's a little more glamorous than that, but, you know, that's the reality of the things that he's dealing with. And I think that, you know, the David Goss theorem, if you will, of second-year players kind of settling into their own a bit more. I expect big things from Pukki as long as he can stay healthy. There's no reason to think he can't be 15, 18 goals.
Our friend Brother BKL in the chat saying, true, St. Clair's a perfect goalkeeper, going to defend the ball with a couple saves. Yeah, this team is going to need him to stand on his head if they're going to be moving up the rankings there. I think you can maybe push for a playoff off spot, but I need to see more. This Western Conference, they went out. They spent money. They all got better this offseason, and that's not really something I've seen from Montreal. So you guys are going to be a little lower on my rankings. Minnesota. The other Great White North.
Yeah.
I was just thinking of Canada. It's all up there.
Yeah.
I think that, it's going to be a lot, and it's going to show in our rankings for sure. So, you know, just get that summer window, get your coach settled, and maybe the second half of the season is going to be, you know, time for you guys to really flourish here.
I think for this team, taking a step backwards to be able to take steps forwards is not a bad thing. If this year ends up being a wash, but it sets you up to be, younger or to have a better system or to, build a roster that's more, cohesive and coherent, like that is not a bad thing to then, for that to be the reason that you missed the playoffs this year.
Yeah, it's for sure. And, what do I know? But again, I would rather see us miss the playoffs, be working towards something than watch one more year of Adrian Heath running out the 4-2-3-1 and like, we win most of the games. If something goes wrong, we go through a rough patch, we make the playoffs, we maybe win 1 or 2 games. Like we've seen that play, we know how that one ends. And I was so sick of it. So again, even if this doesn't work out, even if we crash and burn, new coach, new ideas, young kid, like we just said, 4 players are older than him. At least it'll be something new. It'll be exciting. And personally, I think it'll win. I think it'll work.
All right. Again, Alex, thank you so much from the Dummy Run Pod. Go check it out to find out all your Minnesota United. It's going to be a great season. We look forward to seeing you again. And thank you everyone at home for watching.
Hey, thanks so much.